Hey, folks, it's Chris from the Three Things I Learned podcast. Thanks for joining us. I've got a special guest today. You might have been to the circuit. You might have ridden an elephant. You might have seen The Greatest Showman or Water for Elephants or Dumbo or any of the other amazing circus movies out there and thought, maybe life really is cool in the circus. Well, I've got a special guest for you. He's been in just about every circus there could be, and he's going to talk about the three things he's learned from joining the circus. Stay tuned. Well, today's a very special episode. I've got a very good friend of mine. I've known him for a couple of years now. His name is Justin Chodkowski. He has been in like I said, just about every type of circus there could be. He's ridden motorcycles. He's flown the trapeze. He's been a human cannonball. But more than anything, he's been a friend to the audience and fans around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Justin Chodkowski to the show today. Justin, thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on, Chris. This is awesome.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm very glad you were able to take time out of your busy days. I know you've always been on the go. You've got so many balls in the air, literally if you're juggling, or figuratively if you are a man of many hustles, as I know you are. But Justin, you've spent a lot of time in the circus. You joined the circus at an early age. Can you tell me a little bit about what drew you to the show, how you got involved? You don't look like a particularly old guy, but for somebody who's been doing it for over 20 years, it seems like you know all the tips and tricks of getting in. So how did you get in?
Well, actually, in most cases, circus is family generated. So my dad was in the circus long before I was born. He was on the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. He was a bareback rider. Unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to meet him as life goes. But my mom brought me to the circus when I was 9 years old. We were on the Ringling Brothers show at that point. From then on, did six years on the Ringling show, and then moved on to other circuses and different acts and stuff. I started with the animals first. That was my first love of the show. I got to work around the elephants and the horses and stuff like that. Mainly like picking up after them properly and ready for show and stuff like that. And I learned a lot of responsibility at that point from age 10 on, and knowing that you got to work hard to get anywhere in life. And that was where it all began for me.
So being a family adventure, I mean, it's something that it sounds like, was your mom heavily involved as well in some of the acts and
my mom, actually, she was up on the concession floor, actually painting kids' faces when we were on the Ringling show there at that point. They have the concessionaires, if you will, selling the light swords and the cotton candy and the snow cones and such. But my mom actually got to paint the kids' faces, and she always had a huge line at the end of the show, and they had this building security telling her to kind of wrap up or hurry up and get as many of the faces done as she could before they had to, send them on their way home. And I was the kid always running around asking, to learn whatever I possibly could from all the amazing acts that I was able to watch perform during the shows as my mom was working. So they had a nursery and stuff back then, but I always made friends, and I got taught a lot of different things growing up on the Ringling Brothers show back then.
So with you started at an early age. You started with the animals. You said cleaning up after them, taking care of them. Tell me a little bit about not many people are familiar with handling a large animal. First and foremost, not many people know the heft of scooping up an entire snow shovel worth of elephant dung when you need to. But what are some of the things, like, growing up that impressed upon you really early? I mean, not just the animals themselves, but like what were the things that you were attracted to, and the first few things that you wanted to start picking up, act wise and talent wise?
I didn't really get the beginning of that where you said you're breaking up a little bit, but what drove me to the performing part in the shows where no matter what, every show I watched the Trapeze or it was the Globe of Death then, and the Wheel of Death was my main acts that I always watched, and of course I always had the love for the animals and the elephants and stuff. Just because they were really cool to be around. And once again, they taught me a lot of responsibility at firsthand. But I never let a show go by without watching the trapeze act or the wheel act at that time. And once again, I was probably about 12 years old, 11 actually, and the vice president of talent production at that time, his name was Tim Holst. He always knew that I wanted to perform, and I couldn't really perform in the ring with the animals because I was really too young at that point. He said I had to wait at least another 5 years to get in there. Although they did make me a little jumpsuit so I can go out there and help scoop the poop and maybe roll a bull tub in at the time. So, that was really exciting then. But he told me, he said, hey, listen, I have an opportunity to go and perform. And, I'd have to go and leave my mom at the time, which I was, just going on 12 years old. So I could, honestly say that I left my mom at the ripe age of 12 years old. And, she allowed me to go. I had guardians and, great people around me to guide me in the right direction at that point. And, I started off with a group of kids from Chicago, and we did a jump rope act. And I was, they were all from basically, a tumbling troupe in Chicago. And I was the only white kid at the time. So that was really fun, a good experience for me growing up. And Sergio there in the act there, we were about a year into performing there. And, slowly started getting more and more, different kids in the act at the time. But it was all a great time. You see, we're all smiling there, except the little guy there on the corner there. But it was fun. It was a great time, a great experience. Being away from my mom was the hardest, I think, for sure. But it is what it is. And, I had a great time in a learning process of being in the show and performing and getting to, be around all different kinds of people at that time.
So, one question I have is, as you kind of grew up in the circus, a lot of people take for granted, a lot of things that we have here, like going to school and homeschooling, or, what were the options for you, education wise? And then how did that, what did it become a challenge for you as a performer? Was it difficult for the other kids? I mean, it's balancing like life and show business, right? There's two things that you got to grow up, right, and learn how to, not only the street smarts and the business smarts, but also, book smarts.
Well, I will tell you that once I didn't hear all of that question, but I did get the most part of the beginning, and then I can pretty much see where you're going with that. As a performer on any show, just like movies and stuff like that, they have to provide you with school. So we were homeschooled. We had a wagon, our own wagon, called the Little Red Schoolhouse at the time, and we did school every single day there, no matter if it was the weekends or not. Every day that we were working and performing, we did school. They had 2 or 3 teachers on the road for all the different kids there. I did, the last part of elementary all the way through 12th grade high school on the road on the Ringling show there. And the crazy part is my mom always used to tell me when, as a kid before we joined the circus is, kids should be seen and not heard. And around the adults and stuff, but on the show, on any show, you become part of the family with anybody, in different families and acts and stuff like that. They always treat you as a family because you're around, and everybody just treats each other equally, and they watch out for each other's kids. And say if I was performing now on the shows, I'm sure another act of our friends would be watching our little 2-year-old son behind the curtain, or even during the show at the time. So the street smarts and the growing up on the show is it happens quite rapidly, because you're mostly around adults growing up as a kid.
So you've talked about a little bit about it, being kind of family, and does the atmosphere change from show to show? Because I know you've been in Cirque du Soleil, you've been in Ringling.
Yes.
What other acts have you been in? Where would we have seen you?
Oh, well, like I said, I started on the Ringling Brothers show, and I performed there until I was about 15, and then we went to Reno, Nevada, there at Circus Circus. That's where I learned to do the trapeze. I performed there with a world-class flying act called the Flying Pages, and they were my family, because at that time I was 15, and Jill Pages and Willie Pages became my guardian out on the road. They taught me how to fly there, and I performed with them for 10 years. We were at Circus Circus for about 2 years, and then started doing some shrine circuses. It's a little bit smaller shows. There's a few different ones out there. I've done the trapeze, the wheel, the globe, and just recently I got to get shot out of the cannon. So it was a human cannonball for a little while there with Dave the Bullet Smith. You guys have all seen him probably on AGT and World Record. Had the opportunity to do that. I was with Cirque du Soleil for the last 4 years with a great cast and crew here. The show is called La Nuba, and it was around for 20 years almost there, and just closed its doors on December 31st, actually, of last year.
Man, it's looks like it's just been an amazing ride to see all the things that you've been doing, from every different show to just about all the different types of acts that you have done or can do. Like I'm looking through these pictures, showing them to everybody here in Facebook land. These are behind the scenes, the cast, and we see everything from people who act as the clowns, the acrobats, the jugglers, the dancers, the trapeze acts, as well as some of the rehearsal. Tell me a little bit about like rehearsal life. Is that something that how much does it take to really prepare for a big production? But how long do you practice an act before you roll it out and do it for a live performance?
Yeah, just asking, like, how long does it take to build a show like this one behind in that picture there?
Yeah. Like how long do you practice that before you actually perform it?
Well, they try to integrate each performer in within a month of first getting in the building there. So that's pretty much the timeline of what you get. They well-rounded performer there. They look for they have a great casting agency there with Cirque. They look for the high level artists and performers and stuff. So we're already at the level of performing. The main thing we have to do is learn how to do all of the other cues and just helping fill the stage throughout the show, and the few dances that we did during the show. But other than that, like I said, it takes about a month, and the rigging in there was a little bit different than a normal trapeze rig, so that did take a little bit to get used to. But like I said, that they have a great coaching staff and a great casting department, so they do definitely get the people in there that don't take too long to get integrated in the show.
Right. So
we get to practice there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so getting up to speed once you get brought on board, you get cast for the show. It's going to take what, about a month, you said, before you get on stage in your act. But if you're on a long running show, if you're on something that takes, you might have been doing something for like 5-6 years, I'm sure that you swap out some of the acts or some of the different routines. You also have different partners who might have different skills. Like, to incorporate some of the new things, how long do you feel comfortable, or had you practice some of those things before you actually did them?
Like with the new tricks and stuff. Like, I think you have
Yeah.
a picture of Renato and I doing the double and a half,
Right.
which catch by the legs there. That one took I think at least a good month of training. A good month of training there. Yeah, that's my wife and I. Actually, no, it's Paula Blackwell there. Anyways, yeah, that trick, yeah, that one right there, Renato and I took about a good month of training and learning to trust each other, that he was gonna, stick it out in the trick and to let me do my job and catch it, and that I was gonna have a lot of trust in him, to where he was just gonna throw the trick in the range to where I can get my hands around him and keep him safe as well. So that one really, we weren't able to put any kind of mechanics on the safety lines, because it was a twisting trick. So that took a lot of trust and confidence between both flyer and catcher there. And that was a pretty good one. And we did, we were able to catch some quads here at the show, and some other really big tricks towards the end of the show year, that we started really boosting up the act and giving it our full potential, so that, our trainings amped up quite a bit there towards the end. And, we never had a decline in the act and stuff, but we tried to give it our best to fulfill our big act dreams here in the show, that you couldn't possibly do on a every show basis, just because it was that tough.
Okay, well, I've got a few quick fire questions that I want to ask you, in no particular order.
Oh, okay, I hope. All right.
Before we get
I
into...
hope the Wi-Fi, I'm not even on Wi-Fi, but I hope I can hear him.
Okay, so a few quick fire questions before we get to your three things. First one: sad clown, happy clown, or homie the clown?
I'd do the homie the clown for sure.
He don't play that. Let's go. What would be your best circus movie?
My best circus movie. Oh, well, it have to be Trapeze.
Okay.
The movie Trapeze.
Okay, and worst circus movie?
Oh, worst circus movie. I don't know that I have one. Everybody has different opinions about the movies that come out. I like Water for Elephants, so it got a lot of slack from a few different people, but I guess Big Fish wasn't my favorite. Wasn't one of my favorites.
Okay. Wheel of Death or Human Cannonball?
Human Cannonball.
Hardest animal act?
The hardest?
Yeah.
I would have to say the tigers. I was never interested in those. They look very cool from far away, but I let those trainers do their thing there. Their teeth are just way too big.
Yeah, you probably look like a good snack being that young. Hardest animal to clean up after?
The elephants.
Okay.
I used to scoop my weight in poop every morning, probably with every shovel.
Which is more dangerous, trapeze or tightrope?
I would say I've never tried tightrope. I never had the desire to even step out there on that silver strand, and that's one of the acts that I let the big professionals do. But I would say tightrope. Trapeze is, we have a net, and there's two ways to be safe there. You have the catcher to help save the flyer, and the net as well to catch the flyer if we miss. So.
Okay. Popcorn, peanuts, or cotton candy?
Peanuts.
Yes.
Peanuts.
Okay, and if somebody really wanted to learn the art of the circus, if somebody wants to go to school, I know what your answer is going to be, and it pains me, but where would somebody go to school, the best school you think to learn the circus arts?
Well, I've never been there yet, but I'm gonna have to say the FSU Fly High Circus. My wife graduated from FSU. She went to Fly High Circus, and I've seen a lot of great success stories and performers come out of FSU there. So,
Well, I will admit that all girls school up the road in Tallahassee, has they produce a lot of really good clowns there at Florida State. So I gotta say, go Gators! I gotta represent my Gators.
do it. I thought you were gonna have your Gator shirt up. What happened?
I thought about it, but I figured it's a summer day. I'm just gonna go with the Hawaiian shirt.
Yes.
No intentional disrespect. All right. With that, let's jump into what are the three things. Let's start with the first one. The first thing that you learned from being in the circus.
The first thing that you'll always work hard for sure, no matter what. It's not just the 15 minutes or 12 minutes to fame in the center ring or on the stage. It's the behind the scenes, the trainings, before Cirque came around into my life, I was driving from town to town, setting up the rigging that we were working on, fixing the rigging, sewing the nets, all of the things. Even, after the season was over, there's still a lot of work to be done. So you'll always work hard. Is number one.
Yeah, and how much of your life, like if 24 hours of the day, and I'm sure you're probably not getting 8 hours of sleep a night, but during a performance schedule when you're actually, touring or doing something, how much of your day is devoted to, whether it be rehearsals, extra work on the side, all the maintenance, setup, takedown, strike, how much of your day would you say is dedicated to work versus the play and relaxing and time to recover?
Well, it's a difference in working for the building that I'm sitting in front of now when we work there, versus being out on the road and being the rigger that hangs all the pulleys and the points and stuff that then pulls your rigging up, setting up, the tearing down, all of that. We would do 3 shows or a 6-pack of shows and then tear down after the show's done. And depending on if we had to drive that night or not, wherever we were going for the next town, whether we were resting that night or getting up and driving. But we definitely had a lot of those where we would tear down and get to driving. So that was, every week, every day, it was pretty much time consuming. The only time off that you really necessarily had was possibly in between shows where you're getting a little rest, or in between towns, or when you'd work for 2 months and then have 3 months off. That's when your time was your rest time. But then now you're not resting because you're practicing to get the act to where you want it to be for the next big gig.
Right. And you're doing sometimes 2 or 3 shows a night or a day, depending on what production you're with.
Right. Yeah. With Cirque, we did 10 shows a week, 2 shows a day, 5 days a week. Traveling out there on the road with the shrine circuses right now that are really out there are the only shrine circus, because the big show that I grew up on closed, which is crazy. Ringling Brothers. It was now going on 2 years almost. But anyways, we would travel. I guess you would work maybe 3 to 4 days a week there, but travel time, set up and tear downs, all that stuff, come into play. So you'd get to a town, maybe have a day off, and then go and set up.
Well, you're spending a lot of time with everybody there in the circuit. I guess from your riggers to your other performers to the animals themselves. When you're doing the animal shows, what would be your second one? I'm kind of giving you a quick, easy segue there.
Oh yeah, well, so the second one is definitely your whatever show you're on becomes your family, because you do spend most of the time with whether you're driving in a, caravan, convoy or whatever, making sure each other get from town to town, because there's always breakdowns and stuff like that. Or, we'll stop for lunch somewhere, and then get to the town, and, everybody goes and sets up as fast as they can, so then we can all go out to dinner before we have to work the next day and stuff like that. So yeah, whatever show that you're on, it definitely becomes your family, and they all help out no matter what, helping with the kids, or because, at that point on those shows, there's no real nursery. So if I'm not doing an act now, then I'm going to watch your kid. And then when I go on stage, they're watching our kid at the time.
I've seen an interview, and actually I was talking to a friend of yours from the Zope family circus a couple of years ago, that there's also an amount of trust, right, that you have for your fellow performers, not only just to watch your kids, but, for the trapeze acts, you have to have an amount of trust that is deeper than just, I know somebody's going to get their job done, but it's like, my brother's going to watch out for me, or my husband, my wife, that amount of closeness, that this is family that will not let you down. That was one thing that he definitely articulated about life.
Yes.
With his performance.
That is correct. So either like we're still watching each other's acts go on, and if we see something wrong, or we rush out there to help out, or if there's a cable in the way, or stuff like that. So the show goes on without, seamlessly, without any kind of problems like that. And yeah, the trust is definitely there when we're all out on the road together, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. So what is your third thing that we should consider?
The third thing is definitely, I've learned that always have a plan B. Back in the day, I always, for the love of the show, and always wanted to be a performer for ever and ever, as long as you can. The third thing that I definitely learned is you have to have a plan B, for sure, because
so always have to have a safety net, right?
Yes. Always have that safety net to catch you, which then in turn becomes your, plan A, after you can't perform anymore, or say you get injured, or anything crazy like that. But, I'm sitting in front of the building because I was caught in traffic that closed its doors on the 31st of December of last year. And, without the plan B, then we'd be kind of sitting in the water, basically like twiddling thumbs and waiting for the next best big gig, which we're still working on, because, I still want to perform and stuff, but, definitely always working on that plan B.
Well, I mentioned it at the very top of the show. You've got a number of hustles going on as well, personal businesses from, I believe you have a wine business and a couple of other things that you've been working on as well.
Yeah, I'm in that. I'm part of a wine club, actually, that pays. So, it's not back once again, back in the day, the name of the game was try to invent something that you can sell as many units as you can to somebody. And you know what I'm talking about. I tried to do this LED light bottle thing that I was going to try to produce mass amounts of, and that was going to be the next best thing. But now, with the plan B I have that I've been in now for the last 4 years, I've learned a lot more. Than it's not about the product or selling units. It's more than anything, it's helping change the lives of others, and hopefully to retire at some point in time.
Well, that changing the lives of others has definitely been something that's a big part of this show. It's a big part of what we do in terms of motivating one another, not only just by what we've accomplished, or what we may want to do in the future, but also teaching people, to kind of look back and look at the things that you have accomplished, and from there be motivated of like, wow, look how far I've come and how far I can go, and what can I do next, because I know that I've accomplished the first thing. So Justin, I just want to say thank you for coming, being part of the show. It's great to continue to hear about your success. I appreciate you, especially, just sharing some insights from life in the big top. If you are watching this show and you liked everything that Justin said, please give me a hashtag Big Top. Give us a like and a thumbs up, and be sure to share this. Justin, again, thank you very much for joining us. This has been the Three Things I Learned podcast show, and please share this with your friends. If you got one thing out of this, I'm sure one other person could get something out of this. So